It's the late 1990s, and heavyweight boxing is a wildfire, a global obsession that burns through sports pages, barroom debates, and living room TVs. The ring isn't just a stage, it's a coliseum where modern gladiators clash, and two names tower above the rest, not just for their fists but for the myths they carry. Mike Tyson, the kid who clawed out of Brooklyn's darkest corners, a prodigy turned predator, the most feared man to ever step through the ropes. And Eric "Butterbean" Esch, a 400-pound giant from small-town Alabama, a walking contradiction who laughs off the world but swings like a freight train. Their worlds were never meant to collide. Tyson was a scalpel, precise, ferocious, honed to a razor's edge. Butterbean was a battering ram, raw, unpolished, fighting like he was born with nothing to lose. Yet the dream of it lingered. Fans whispered about it in smoky diners. Promoters schemed over it in late-night meetings. Tyson versus Butterbean. Speed against size. A storm against a mountain. A fight that could have shaken boxing to its core, not for titles but for something primal, something that spoke to the heart of why we watch men throw punches. To understand this dream, you have to understand the men. Start with Tyson and go back to Brownsville, Brooklyn, in the 1970s. Mike Tyson wasn't born a champion, he was born a target. Small for his age, poor, and bullied, he grew up in a neighborhood where survival was a daily fight. The streets of Brownsville were a crucible, forging anger in a boy the world seemed to reject. By 12, he was a whirlwind of trouble, petty crimes, fights, in and out of juvenile detention. Then came Cuz D'Amato, a grizzled trainer with a philosopher's soul. Cuz saw something in Tyson's eyes. Hunger, yes, but also a fire that could be shaped. He took the kid in, not just as a student but as a son, teaching him discipline, focus, and a boxing style that would terrify the world. The peekaboo stance became Tyson's signature, head weaving, fists tight, body coiled like a spring. At barely 5 feet 10 inches, he was no giant, but he was a compact nightmare. His punches weren't just blows, they were statements. His power wasn't just in his gloves, it was in his presence. By 20, Tyson was a force of nature. November 22, 1986, he steps into the ring against Trevor Berbick for the WBC heavyweight title. The world watches, breathless. Berbick, a seasoned champion with a granite chin, is overwhelmed. Tyson moves like a panther, a blur of hooks, jabs, and uppercuts. 2 rounds, and Berbick's on the canvas, stumbling, falling, rising, falling again. Tyson, at 20 years and 4 months, becomes the youngest heavyweight champion in history. The arena erupts. This isn't a win, it's a coronation. For years, Tyson was untouchable. Opponents didn't just lose, they were dismantled. Heavyweights, 6 feet 4 inches, 250 pounds, men built like oak trees, crumpled in minutes. His knockouts were brutal, final, like a guillotine's drop. But it was more than the punches. It was the fear. Tyson's stare, cold, empty, unblinking, could break a man's spirit before the bell. He didn't box, he destroyed. Yet even empires fall. Fame, money, betrayal, scandals, they piled up like stones on his chest. By 1992, a rape conviction sent him to prison for 3 years. When he returned in 1995, the fire still flickered, but it was dimmer. Slower, angrier, haunted by the ghost of his prime, Tyson wasn't chasing belts anymore. The world didn't care about rankings, they just wanted to see Mike Tyson fight. They wanted that chaos, that spark that made him a phenomenon. Even in decline, he filled arenas, because with Tyson, every fight was a gamble, and the payout was unforgettable. Now, shift to Butterbean. Eric Esch didn't come from boxing's hallowed gyms or city streets. He came from Jasper, Alabama, a speck on the map where fights were settled in gravel lots under flickering streetlights. Bald, round, pushing 400 pounds, he looked like the guy flipping burgers at a county fair. But when Eric Esch stepped into a ring, the jokes stopped. They called him Butterbean, a name born from his days eating canned beans to make weight for local tough man contests, those wild, bare-knuckle style brawls where regular folks, truckers, bouncers, factory workers, threw hands for cash and glory. Butterbean didn't just compete, he ruled. His fists were sledgehammers. One punch could turn out the lights. Promoters saw a star. They turned him pro in 1994, and the fans fell hard. Butterbean wasn't about finesse or footwork. He was a spectacle, a human demolition crew. He'd march forward, eating punches like they were nothing, then swing, a massive hook, a haymaker, and his opponent was staring at the ceiling. Crowds didn't come for 12-round chess matches, they came for chaos. Butterbean delivered, becoming the king of the 4-rounders, a title he wore like a crown. He popped up in movies, slammed bodies in WWE, even guested on talk shows, but don't call him a gimmick. Butterbean was real. He could take a beating, laugh it off, and come back swinging. His power was undeniable, his heart unyielding. In a sport of polished athletes, he was the everyman who proved grit could outshine skill. Now, imagine it's 1997. Tyson's fresh from prison, clawing for relevance, his name still a magnet for millions. Butterbean's at his zenith, flattening foes in 4-round spectacles, a fan favorite who packs seats and steals headlines. In dimly lit offices, promoters start whispering, what if the baddest man on the planet faced the toughest man in the game? Tyson versus Butterbean. Not for belts or rankings, but for something deeper, a collision of two forces, two stories, two truths. Speed against strength, precision against endurance. A fight that would sell out Madison Square Garden or Caesar's Palace in minutes. Picture the scene. A Las Vegas arena, electric, bursting at the seams. The air is thick with sweat, cigar smoke, and anticipation. Tyson's in his corner. Black trunks, black gloves, no socks, pacing like a caged lion. His eyes are locked on nothing, that stare that's broken men before a punch lands. Across the ring, Butterbean bounces lightly, all 400 pounds, a grin curling his lips but fire in his gaze. The crowd is a sea of noise, chanting, Tyson, Tyson, and Bean, Bean, in a fevered split. Celebrities pack the front rows. Jack Nicholson, Denzel Washington, faces lit by the glow of the ring. The announcer's voice booms, the bell clangs, and the world holds its breath. Round 1. Tyson erupts from his corner, head weaving, feet dancing. He's a blur, closing the distance in seconds. A jab snaps Butterbean's head back. Another. Tyson's testing, probing for cracks in the mountain. Butterbean swings a massive right hook, a wrecking ball of a punch. Tyson ducks, the fist whistling over his head. The crowd gasps, on its feet. Tyson counters with a left to the ribs, a thud that echoes like a bass drum. Butterbean grunts but doesn't flinch, rooted like an oak. He swings again, a wild haymaker. Tyson slips it, lands a sharp uppercut. Butterbean's head jerks, but he's still there, still grinning. The round ends, the arena shaking with roars. Round 2, Tyson smells blood. He's faster now, darting in, out, in again. A right hook slams Butterbean's jaw, snapping his head sideways. The crowd screams, sensing the end. Butterbean stumbles, just for a heartbeat, but he's still standing, still smiling. Tyson unloads a combination, left, right, left again. Each punch lands clean, rocking the giant, but Butterbean won't fall. He absorbs the storm, shakes his head, and throws a counter, a heavy left that grazes Tyson's shoulder. Tyson feels the power, the sheer weight of it, and backs off, resetting. The bell rings, and the arena's a cauldron, fans screaming until their throats burn. Round 3. Tyson's breathing harder, his face slick with sweat. Butterbean's flushed red, a bruise blooming on his cheek, but he's still coming, relentless, a freight train with a heartbeat. Tyson weaves, lands a vicious uppercut. Butterbean's knees buckle. The crowd surges, screaming for the finish. Tyson swarms, left, right, body, head. Butterbean hits the ropes, wobbling like a tree in a hurricane. The ref's watching close, hand twitching. One more shot, a left hook to the chin. Butterbean crashes to the canvas, 400 pounds shaking the ring. The ref waves it off. Technical knockout, Mike Tyson. The arena explodes, a wall of sound that feels like it could crack the sky. But here's the truth, that fight never happened. It lived in the imaginations of fans, in late-night bar debates, in the what-ifs that fuel boxing's soul. Years later, both men spoke of it. Butterbean, with that easy grin, said he'd have fought Tyson anytime, anywhere. He respected Mike's speed and power but believed he could take it, maybe even wear him down. I'd keep coming, he said, no matter what. Tyson, with that high-pitched laugh that disarmed as much as it unsettled, called Butterbean a tough guy, a real tough guy. He said it would have been fun. Fun, a word that carried the weight of respect, the acknowledgement of a man who'd stand toe-to-toe with a legend. And maybe that's why this fight still haunts us. It wasn't about who'd win, it was about the spectacle, the clash of two souls who fought for different reasons but burned with the same fire. Tyson fought to conquer, to prove he was more than the kid the world wrote off. Butterbean fought to show heart could outweigh polish, that an ordinary man could be extraordinary. Their legacies didn't need belts or records, they were bigger than that. Tyson was the storm, beautiful, terrifying, unpredictable, a force that could sweep away anything in its path. Butterbean was the mountain, unyielding, enduring, rooted in something unshakable. If that fight had happened, it might have lasted 5 minutes, maybe less. But those minutes would have been pure chaos, Tyson's fists cracking like thunder, Butterbean refusing to fall, grinning through the pain, the crowd screaming until their voices gave out. It would have been a moment frozen in time, replayed in highlight reels, retold in barstool stories for generations. Instead, it remains one of boxing's greatest unfulfilled dreams, a fight that never was but never faded. Tyson and Butterbean never touched gloves, but their stories orbit each other like twin stars, close enough to feel the pull but never colliding. Tyson, the symbol of rage tamed and unleashed. Butterbean, the embodiment of defiance and heart. Two men from different worlds, forever linked in the ring of our minds. And maybe that's enough. Maybe the beauty of this fight is that it lives forever, untouched, perfect in the space between what was and what could have been. In boxing, the fights that never happen can burn just as bright as the ones that do, and Tyson versus Butterbean is a flame that still flickers, a dream that refuses to die.